What is up, YouTube? That's here. Today we're fixing more Patreon submitted teams. This is actually the second draft of a team submitted by Ryuzaki using Calyrex Shadow and Zacian with Blastoise. Very, very popular core right now. I think it's a very, very cool team, and it only needs some slight tweaking and fixing to actually be a next level team that can do well at events. You can see the official submission post for all the teams is going to be up on Patreon right here. If you guys have teams you still want to submit, this post is still open. It'll be open for a couple more weeks. And the team we're looking at is right here. So they initially submitted it right here. If I have any changes, please let me know. They're new to Pokemon and basically all their experiences from seeing my teams. They made a second draft, which is the one we're going to be looking at here. They changed the team a bit. They added Scarf Alecki because they wanted to be faster than Ogre under Tailwind. And, you know, they can just use, like, E-Web Barrage. It's a good flowchart versus that. And, against some Trick Room teams, they added Subcali S to remove Sash for Spell Tag. Let me know what you think. And basically, remember, they want to understand how this team could work better in a best-of-3 and in, like, a regional situation. And realistically, I don't think you should be playing Zacian Cali at a regional. You know, we just saw Germany regionals, sorry, Germany Internats. Yes, there were a decent amount of Zacian Shadow Riders in top 64, but none of them were in top 8. So realistically, it's a very aggressive team, but once your opponents figure out that, like, oh, you're not Sash Cali, like, oh, your Lecky's Scarfed, oh, it's physical, mostly physical Lecky, oh, you're in Sin's this set and doesn't have a Dark Attack, oh, your Blastoise is basically a one-trick pony that doesn't have Protect, they're able to abuse that, right? They're definitely going to be able to abuse that in a best-of-3 situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to try our very best at the end of the video, after we play some games, to fix everything, all the EVs, all the items, do our best to make this a best-of-3 team and fix everything. But before that, let's play some games and see how the team that was actually submitted plays. Hopefully we don't go too all in, and hopefully we get some good wins. So wish me luck. Here we go. Alright, Kyogre Solgaleo. That can be a good matchup for this team just because we have Shadow Rider. But even though we have Shadow Rider, we're going to be fighting against like Grim and Incin while doing it. I think we're probably going to try like Shadow Rider Blastoise, because you can just pop that Incin out of the stratosphere, and we can kind of deal with the Grim. I think this Blastoise has Fake Out. Let me check. Like if the Blastoise has Fake Out, that's going to be really nice. It doesn't. Oh well. But we're still going to try it. I think these two go really, really well together, and if they do lead with something that we're really scared of, we can switch away to something else to pin. I think you still want to bring the Alecki in this matchup. And I'm not a big fan of Rilla, but it makes a decent switch in to help repin Grim, and having a Fake Out user is going to be pretty required. Do I not bring Zacian here? Zacian's kind of just okay. Yeah. One thing to note, whenever you're playing with a team like this that's like super, super one-dimensional all-in, you don't have to follow the flowcharts that you make for yourself. Like, you can deviate a little bit. Like, Zacian is arguably the best Pokemon in the format, but you can tell their team is like 100% made to counter Zacian. Rillaboom's going to have just way more utility in this situation. Being able to like low-key pin Ogre, where Zacian struggles versus Ogre, struggles versus Incin, struggles versus Solgaleo, struggles versus Landorus. It's like, I'd much rather just bring Rilla. And in this exact situation, there's a couple things that we could actually be doing. We could go for a sub play. We can go for a Will-O-Wisp. I think I am going to open up with the Wisp under this guy. I'm going to Wisp the Solgaleo. Hopefully he's not Sucker Punching. Again, this is where I would have really liked to have seen Fake Out Blastoise. If this was Fake Out Blastoise, I'd think about just going Fake Out Grim, Will-O-Wisp. Easy. Easy win this game if that actually happens. But we're just going to go for the big Cannonade. And we're going to try and stick the damage dot on the Grim. Hopefully we can actually KO the Grim, which means if they light screen, they're only going to get like one screen, which would actually make it so like they don't get the Reflect up, and it's really good for us. The thing that would suck here is if they like self-policy proc into the Solgaleo and we like miss Wisp. Or they self-policy proc, we burn them and they still kill us. That'd be really, really bad. Looks like they're not maxing. I wonder if they're Trick Rooming, which is kind of fine. We would just switch out Cali for Rilla, and then we'd have a really good board. Rilla, a good board. So let's see it. Protect Soul. Okay. Are you just going for a raw foul play? That's not the sauce, I don't think. Light screen. So they're going to go for dual screens, which is fine. The fact that we also see Protect on the Soul means it's going to have a very limited moveset. Very limited. It's going to have like... I should have went for the sub. Well, no. Yeah, this will not KO, but the dot is going to be really, really big. Yeah, I love this dot. So let's see, what do we want to do for the rest of the game? Do we want to go for like a max Hailstorm to add a second dot? It's kind of good. Because we can just kill the Grim with it, you know? Cannonade would make the Grim actually get KO'd. We're actually in a really good spot. The only issue here is we have to play around Scary Face. And I think the way that I'll play around Scary Face, they're going to max Solgaleo this turn. And go for like a Steel Spike, I think. I think that's what they do. They might Reflect or something. I don't really care. I really don't want to get Scary Face and just lose this, though. So I'm going to switch it out. I'm going to switch it in for, what is it, Regieleki. I kind of want to set this. It's not even, like, weak. I'll just go for another Cannonade, and I'll just get the Grim off the board, just because Grim's just a big problem. Don't need to set 2 dots yet. And then we'll use, like, the Grassy Terrain to keep our 2 mons healthy. So let's see what they're going to do. I really like the Protect on Solgaleo, though. We already showed our hand with Will-O-Wisp, and now what we really want to do is just kind of wait out, if we can, the light screen, and wait out. They see the Thunder Wave right there. It's pretty nice, right? We don't even want to, like, show Protect. We want to give off the illusion that we... Because, like, switching there instead of Protecting gives them off the illusion that we might be Scarfed. And, wow, they're actually Wild Charge. I actually wish that we took this damage full on, because they take more recoil. I'm surprised they're not maxing. I'm really surprised. It's almost scaring me that they're not maxing. Like, bro, you know you can do that, right? Whatever. I'm not making the rules. We're going to take out their Grim, which means, you know, we're in a pretty good spot moving forward. If you want to bring out the Kyogre, I have a good pin with my Rillaboom. Cannonade is ticking, so if you max that Sogo now, it's basically weak enough to where after another Cannonade tick, you're going to get chipped by Astral. But we'll see what happens. So they have Protect, Wild Charge. Huh. It means they must not have Trick Room. They must have, like, EQ Steel Spike. Rillaboom of their own. Okay, so that means the last one's probably Ogre, and we just need to over-respect it. I wish we had U-Turn on this Rilla. I always am a big fan of, like, U-Turn Rilla, so you can just pivot better, but this is not a good spot to be in. I actually think you have to just go for the Hammer and, like, a Hailstorm into their Rilla. Because, like, their Rilla is actually a big problem because it can super pin our Alecki because our Alecki's EV spread's not perfect, which we're going to fix at the end of the video. Shout out to the people that stay till the end of the video where we actually go over and make all the changes we need to make this team shine. So they're maxing their Rilla, bro. If that's, like, policy Rilla, we're actually pretty boned. We might outspeed it. Blastoise has a 78 base speed, and this Blastoise does not have any investment, so it's not going to outspeed. That sucks. So Wild Charge, yeah, they're just doubling into Blastoise. I don't think I'm wrong in, like, assuming you were going to max your Soul, but if you want to max your Rilla, like, be my guest. Like, ow. Yeah, like, freaking super ow. I mean, would you have max guard? Would any of them max guarded there? Is that normal? I don't think so. Yeah, Rilla's an issue here. At least we hit our Hammer. That's actually an important, amount of damage to do, because we can actually still come in with Shadow Rider. We can use Sub if we want, but, like, let's see. We could use Sub, we could use Protect, we could just go for a Wisp into the Rilla, but we don't know if it has, like, I guess, not like a Steel Spike, but like a knockoff move. Max Darkness, that would suck. Kind of want to save this, realistically. I'll go for the Bounce. I think that the Bounce is good because it, like, lets us avoid the damage, and the next turn when we come in with Shadow Rider, they're not going to have a Protect and Wide Guard probably, so we'll just probably let our Rilla get KO'd by something if they want to go into that, or we'll just go for, like, another Wood Hammer because it is good damage. It's actually better to throw this Wood Hammer into the Soul, I think. And we're going to go for a Bounce into their Rilla. Bounce is a bit of a weird play, but it lets us avoid damage. Sogo's going to Protect. Awesome. That's totally fine. So that means its Protect is going to be off cooldown. So it bounces up. Again, I would love it if they just took out our Rilla, because I want to open up a spot for Shadow Rider, but, like, it's no big deal. Max Quake. Nah, fam. Not today. Not today. Maybe I should have hit the Rilla then, because, like, I'm going to have to land and get Quaked, which sucks. Now, I would have killed the Solgaleo there. That would have been nice to KO that thing. Because it's the only thing that's stopping Wide Guard in the back. Alright. Bounce will not KO this Rilla, and we are going to land and have, like, everything taken away from us. I still think the best play is getting the Rilla off the board. Rilla's actually a really big issue. And if that Soko doesn't have Wide Guard, we win versus the Ogre. One thing that I'm kind of scared of, ooh, switching out for Kyogre probably. And Sin, bro, they didn't even bring Kyogre. Okay. Just like we were talking about, like we didn't bring our, you know, whatever Mon, and they didn't bring their whatever Mon. Ah, that's really hard to deal with then. Bounce is not doing that much. It was just used to avoid the max damage. Yeah, we'll see what we can get done here. I'm not a big fan of like our board state versus Incin. Like we have like no Incin matchup with this team if they take out our Blastoise, which is hard to deal with. I really think that they should have switched that Slowgo out like 5 turns ago. If they had the Incin this whole time. But it makes sense. Sword Hammer's going to come in hot. It's enough damage to KO with Astral. This is where I really wish our Rilla had like literally anything else. If we could have been pivoting and doing other stuff this whole time, we would have been in a good spot. But we'll see. The Incin might not have a Dark Attack, which is more common than you might think. Like Incins sometimes get built with like fake out, you know, if they want to go like fake out Parting Flare Blitz Protect, they won't have it. If they want to go like fake out or like a Burning Jealousy or like a Will-O-Wisp or a Taunt, they won't have the Dark Attack. That's the attack they'll cut. I bet they have the Dark Attack because they're playing in Shadow Rider, but realistically, if we get the KO here on the Rilla, oh, we still have to take the freaking damage from, oh yeah, we still have to take the damage from the grassy terrain, like Grassy Glide, right? Last turn Grassy, so you might as well just protect it. It sucks. We can't just eat a Grassy Glide, by the way. It doesn't work like that. So you know they're going to go after it. Open protects. Okay, that's fine with me. And we're going to see the Lariat probably then. Yep, there it is. I can't do anything about that. And so this is another good example of why you definitely still need to use a Sash on your Shadow Rider, and we get parried. So things that we can take away from this game. Spell Tag Shadow Rider is not very optimal. Whenever you're not using a Sash, you should always be using a Sash in your games. Another thing, your Rillaboom, I like that you want to do big damage with like Grassy Glide and Wood Hammer, but without the ability to pivot through like U-turn, you kind of get stuck on your Rilla if they have the right tools to ignore it. Another thing about Blastoise, I think Blastoise kind of did okay. You know, I think we got a little bit cheesed by the Max Rilla, but, you know, Blastoise did okay. I like the set. There's nothing wrong with Blastoise. The Regieleki did, again, it did okay. But you can kind of just tell the fact that, like, we have damage-reducing berries, but no sashes. Not the right way to play it. I don't actually even see a way that we get out of this at all, because they're just going to click Lariat. And the best play for us to do in this exact situation is actually just a scoop, so we don't show that we're not sashed. You know, remember the submission post on Patreon said how to make this team work better in a best of 3. Well, the best way to make it work in a best of 3 is not revealing your items if you don't have to. So we got to take this L, but, you know, that's kind of what happens when you play a super, super one-dimensional all-in team that, for the most part, lacks speed control, for the most part, needs updating on its defensive items, and for the most part needs to be updated in full and have a full overhaul done to it. So we'll fix all this stuff at the end of the video, but for the next one, we're going to go try to find a, you know, a battle that we can actually win. So let's go on another one. Here we go. All right, so Calyrex Kyogre. One thing you always want to know about anytime you see Seismitoad, if you see them go with Seismitoad, like they actually decide to go with like Kyogre Seismitoad, you know that they're super all in. And if you're a player that's using Rilla, all you have to do is go for like a super passive turn 1, protect your main threat that the Seismitoad's targeting, hard switch in the Rilla, and then you immediately repin the Seismitoad and you can win the game. So we're probably going to bring Rilla in the back. It's also not a bad Mon to lead with. It has a faster fake out than Sin, so we can fake out Cali. You don't have any terrain control. You can play around Amoonguss for the most part. Yeah, I think I might just lead the Rilla. Normally, I'm not a big fan of leading Rilla at all. It leads right into that fake out and you're big sad. But, like, we can fake out, so we can, like, fake out their Sin and, like, one-shot their Cali Ice probably, unless they're Berry Berry. We can also, like, Grassy Glide the Mimikyu, one-shot the Mimikyu. That loses to redirection, but if they do something like that, we let them get up Trick Room, we hard switch in Blastoise, and then we're good to go. And then we save... Oh, what? I've never seen this happen. I've never seen that happen before. Ever. Like, ever. What? Wow. Have you ever seen that happen? It didn't even say, like, you know, opponent DC'd or anything weird. That just kind of broke the game. Well, we were going to win, and remember, if you ever seen someone using Seismitoad, just play a very defensive turn, bring in your Rilla safely, pin the Toad, their max is down, you're going to win the game. Palkia Ice Rider with ability to go for like copycat plays. Alright, so that means we should use a slower priority move. So like we could just go Rilla here. Rilla wouldn't... Rilla, that would lose to like... Actually, no, Helping Hand works. Yep, Helping Hand's good. So we can go Helping Hand, Shadow Rider, and if like they actually go like Indeedee and, you know, either the Palkia or the Ice Rider, we can just go Helping Hand and go for Astral and get the win. We do probably want to bring... I don't hate Indeedee here. I think we're going to bring in Sin, though. And Sin just a little bit better versus Ice Rider, sorry, and versus Torkoal. It's not as good versus Palkia, but Fake Out's nice, and we can just use it to, like, pivot. You know, it does have a pivoting move, unlike Rilla, so we can use it just a little bit if we need it. And let's see how this one works here. I'm thinking they're going to go hard into Trick Room. Remember, the last team that we actually fixed was a team that was, like, built onto, like, Indeedee and, like, its Trick Room setter. And so they wanted to go Follow Me and Trick Room every single game turn 1. And we're not really going to let that happen. We're going to try our best to abuse it. So Palkia might not die. But the fact that we are Shadow Rider with a Spell Tag and a Helping Hand, I think we're actually going to be able to do it. Let me actually open up like the damage calculator. Look at this. Look at these quick maths over here. Is it working? Screen cap it. It's going to show it. It's not going to show it. I'll just do it. Alright, fine. Actually, no, I'm not going to make you guys wait. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Helping Hand. Astral. If we get this KO here, we probably win. We're going to still struggle with that Indeedee, but I still think we'll be able to roll it over. Yeah, they're just going for the Follow Me Trick Room. Cool thing about this lead, though, is it beats like the Liepard variant, too, that would want to go like Copycat Max Guard. So let's see what they want to do. Astral. Biggest Astral you've ever seen in your life. How bulky are you, Palkia? Are you a 2v2 squad or not? Nah, we lose. Nah, do we lose, though? Let me think about this. Because we can probably wait out this Trick Room, realistically. That was a lot of damage, though. Let's think about what we want to do here. Because we don't know anything about that Palkia set. We don't know anything at all. Yeah, we want to actually use, like, Yawns and stuff like that. Force them to use their Trick Room turns to switch things out. Because, like, if we just leave the Indeedee up there, and we can just weather this Palkia for 4 turns, and we'll be fine. We don't want to set Cannonade because it would make them so the Palkia doesn't take any damage on it. They're probably going to want to max their Cali, and we're not going to let them bring that in for free. They'd have to like take a turn to switch something out. And so, like, you know, if they switch out Indeedee for Cali this turn, we'd get to go for a Yawn on the Palkia. And then next turn, yes, they do have their Cali out, but we can just switch out our Cali for Incin. So them using Follow Me here, not the end of the world. They're going to have to switch that guy out next turn. And we can just go for a Yawn on the Palkia. So it's basically a free turn. And we're seeing what the Palkia is doing. It's not even going for, like, a Spatial Run's fine. Maybe block that. We're going to go into Incin, I think. Oh, Zacian's good, actually, switching on that. Yeah, we'll just go switch into Zacian, then. Yep. So, Indeedee's going to get put to sleep, or they switch. So, we're still in a good spot. I can't believe that Palkia ate that well. That's ridiculous. So, it's hard switching out their Indeedee. They don't want to get put to sleep. So, Palkia is going to get yawned by something this turn. Into Snorlax. Okay. I don't remember if that Palkia had telepathy, but we're going to find out. Hopefully they're not maxing and they're just going for, like, another Spatial. You know, the good thing about what we did is we put that Palkia low into where it shouldn't want to max. There's the Yawn. We underspeed them. I didn't even notice that last turn. Nutty. So Spatial Run blocked. Nice. We really don't want that Lax being able to Belly Drum, but I'm not that afraid of it. There's only 2 turns left in the Trick Room. So we're just going to Yawn the Snorlax and pop a Protect on the Zacian. And then we'll like hard switch away next turn. If the Snorlax belly drums right now, we'll see what happens. Shadow Rider's kind of ass here, though. They have Indeedee and Lax. Oof. EQ, so they're probably Telepathy Palkia, correct? Yep, awesome. So Palkia is going to go good night. We Yawn the Lax, which means it's going to be really, really pinned. And we're probably going to be okay here. Fire Blast. Not today, Chief. So Palkia's good night, good fight. This seems like a turn that we can definitely go for the Cannonade, I would say. We'd also just go for a Helping Hand. I think the Helping Hand's fine, too. I actually don't mind the Helping Hand, because we don't want to actually max just yet. Because we might have to max Shadow Rider, which sounds kind of weird. Yeah, I don't hate that play. If Lax stays in and gets put to sleep, if Lax maxes, I'm not afraid because I didn't get a belly drum. If Lax does anything, remember, this is the last turn of Trick Room, so they're switching it out, so something's going to come in and take massive damage. Show me that, Callie. Torkoal. Hey, I should have cannonaded, right? Holy moly. So we've seen all 4 of their mons. Their Palkia is asleep, and it has to be asleep this turn. So that's really, really important. Note that it has to be asleep. So what we can do this turn is, like, probably just go for, you know, the big damage into the Torkoal here. Big damage this turn. Next turn, we max the Blastoise and finish off the Torkoal, and we finish off the Palkia. So it's going to do a lot still. That's still a lot of damage. Yeah, I like that a lot. Cool. So we're actually going to be fine in this game, I think. And they got up the Trick Room, but, like, that's a good way to, like, wait out Trick Room teams. It's just, like, never really KO the Entity and kind of just chill. We're going for the Cannonade this turn, and we're going to be able to finish off the Palkia. We're going to Behemoth Blade it just in case it maxes, which I don't think it should, but they're running out of max options. I know it's resisted, but it should still be able to KO. Battle's canceled. We're just going to take those wins. We're just going to take it. Obviously, there's nothing they could have done in that situation. Be patient when you're fighting against Trick Room teams. This team has a pretty good matchup against them, I would say. The only places where this team would struggle, I would say, is against like really, really aggressive Tailwind teams, you know, faster Ogre teams. And what we're going to do now is we're going to hop into fixing all of the EVs, all the items, and we're going to make this team the absolute best it can be. So let's hop right into it and, you know, get to some fixing. Here we go. All right, so now that we played a few games with the team, I generally understand how it's supposed to be played, and I think I can make a bunch of changes. Remember, Ryuzaki wanted this team to function more in like a best-of-3 / regional setting, and so I'm going to do my best to make this team function at that level instead of just playing on the ladder. What I would say is this team is highly tuned to work on the ladder. Remember, even something that they said, they added like the Scarfaleki to work better, like cheesing, you know, Ogres and Tailwind. That's something that works in the ladder. It doesn't really work at a regional, because even if you win that game, you know, after that, you're never able to bring your Lucky again for, like, you know, the rest of that set, because they know it's Scarf, they'll be able to abuse it with, like, fake outs and other things like that. But also, like, if you're doing well at the tournament, people will be like, oh, that's the guy with Scarf Lecky, and then you're not able to win any games either. So we're going to be doing our best to tweak the team for a regional setting, and I think the number one thing you want to look at when you're fixing teams, the number one team building thing is if you're ever caught in a situation where you're using damage reducing items like Lockenberries or Shukaberries, even on bulky Pokemon, but you're not using a Sash, you should be using a Sash, because, you know, you can still get one-shotted by like a +3 max Quake on your Incin through a Shukaberry. You can still get one-shotted from a super pumped-up Defiant Thundurus with a Lockenberry. So realistically, you should still be using your Sash, and you realistically should still be using your Sash and your Calyrex. I understand the use of Sub, but it's not going to be as valuable as you think. So I really do think you should just go back to that Sash, and we'll start off with the Calyrex and make that go back to Sash. So make this guy Sash. And then as for whatever moves you want to go with here, there's not that many things you can do on this team. And if we're trying to make it for like a best-of-3, realistically, I'm not going to lie, the set that I like going is Trick Room Imprison. I think it's just a free win versus a lot of like bulky Trick Room teams. Free win. You know, Calyrex isn't a Pokemon that's going to be winning us a lot of our games. It's one that I would use. You know, I think in my games I led with it a lot because I tried to steal wins, which, like, isn't a good mentality, and we didn't even steal any of the wins. We kind of just played normally. We used it as bait a lot, right? So that's one thing that this Calyrex can do. Also, Imprison's Protect, which makes it a lot easier to use things like Zacian and Lecky, right? So I would say that Imprison Cali's probably the best, even in a best-of-3 situation, just because it's a free win that they have to over-respect the next game, and it still just plays with this Pokemon's strengths. After that, the Zacian set, I don't know why I see so many people running this exact Zacian set. It's kind of in the no man's land of speed tiering, right? After a +1, yes, I understand you can outspeed a lot of other stuff, but I feel like that's wasting so many points. I really feel like 36 is the most you're ever going to need if you're running a bulky Zacian, which is one that's trying to replicate. And this lets you outspeed 105 like Mineshao's. So I think this is about as much as you would ever need, and then you just put the rest of this in bulk, you know? And then basically you're good to go. I think this is a better bulky Zacian set, but that's just my opinion. I'm just not a fan of the 148 Zacian. I feel like you'd be much better off soaking damage and then reapplying with something else. I also don't think you need any attack investment. I know that sounds really weird, but that's just how I like to run my Zacians. I like to even max out this HP, and then I like to spread it around just a little bit more and go like this. Now, I've recommended this set to a lot of people, but I do think if you're ever going to run a bulky Zacian set, Zacian doesn't need to be adamant 252 to get KOs on a lot of the things that it already gets KOs on. You're really overshooting what Zacian does by going with that much investment. I know it sounds really weird. You're like, but that's what happens when I get intimidated. It's like, well, you shouldn't be getting intimidated. Like, you should be saving your Zacians in the back. And even if you do get intimidated, like, the fact that you were running Sacred Sword over Close Combat, like, if you're running 252 Adamant Close Combat, there's a reason for that. Because even if you get intimidated, you can still OHKO most Incin sets. But since we're not doing that, we don't want to do that. We want to make a bulkier Zacian to be able to pivot in between like Lecky, Rillaboom, and Sins and stuff like that and cover up for Shadow Rider. I think a set like this is just going to be better. Believe it or not, that Adamant Nature boost off that 170 with the +1 from Intrepid Swords going to make you way stronger than you actually think. You don't need attack investment here. You just throw the last 4 right there, and that's how I would run this guy. As for the Blastoise, I think Blastoise did a lot of stuff right, and especially because we're taking points out of Zacian, we can use Helping Hand here. I like, realistically though, using Protect. Like, there's nothing wrong with the Helping Hand. If you want to keep it, that's fine. I like the Protect so I can weave in those Yawns realistically, and then we cut this Walking Berry for your leftovers. Right? That's what I like. I like it just like this. I'm also more of a fan, and I know that you're usually in Maxis Mon almost every game, but like, I like the Scald here. I do just like the Scald because it makes it just more of a mixed option. But I understand, like, going back to the set you had before, you had a Walking Berry, which is a good item. I think also Rindo Berry, to be able to cut Rillaboom Grassy Glides is just very, very good. And Hydro Cannon here, very, very solid item choices here. With the same Helping Hand, you're thinking Helping Hand turns into Max Guard, but like, Yawn would also turn into Max Guard. So Helping Hand's very niche, I would say. Especially in that best of one situation, like, it's very, very niche. You might even want to think about putting, if it still gets it, Dragon Tail to be able to phase out, you know, mons that get like stat boosts and stuff like that. I know it is counterproductive with the Yawn, but like, you would just pick and choose which ones you want to do. There's a bunch of different moves Blastoise gets, and I like that we have ice coverage. I like that we have this. I also think there's like, if there's a way to get a little bit additional coverage, maybe like a flip turn or something, to be able to be a bit of a bully, or maybe like a life dew, just something else to add just a little bit more spice to this guy's set. Maybe even a Shell Smash, who knows? But yeah, there's nothing really wrong with the Helping Hand, so we'll just keep it. I mean, I used it in one of the games, and it worked for me, so Helping Hand's pretty cool. But the EV spreads also, it also works. I like the EV spread a lot, so good stuff. The only thing to really note about the EV spread is that I think we're suboptimally using our nature. Let me just find out. So we want to get to 136, right? But we also want, we want to get to 133 on the defense, and we have a lot higher defense stat. So what would that look like? So we could go 4 there, and then we would take the rest of this and go to 44. It's exactly the same. It doesn't really matter. You know, normally you want to put your natures in whatever your highest stat is. And, you know, in this case scenario of defense, we have 15 more defense. But it ends up being the exact same anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's the exact same EV spread. The one thing that I remember that I wanted to talk about, Helping Hand should be Fake Out. Oh my gosh. Put Fake Out on this thing. It's super important. Fake Out makes it so we can actually be a bully with things like Zacian and Calyrex and not have to go Incin and then next turn Yawn things. You definitely Fake Out there. That's the move. That's it. And then if you're going to go Fake Out, you probably want to put the, yeah, you want to make sure you're 31 in attack for Fake Out. So please use Fake Out. That'd be really, really cool. Other than that, now let's just fix your EV spread. You had 100 here. And then you had 140. It's the same calc. You see the numbers are exactly the same. Every once in a while, if this was like a 1 of 5 base defense, you'd get 1 more point basically out of going with the EV spread that I recommended there. But it's fine. Choice Card for Lucky. I'm not a fan of this. I do not think this is how we want to run this Pokemon. If you want to keep your Calyrex exactly the same, you could think about putting the Sash there. But I think that this Pokemon is not a good look for a best of 3 situation. You know, I'm more of a fan of like a bulkier Lucky with like a magnet. And then my Lucky spreads tend to be more like this that I would recommend. So you go like Protect. You go with like Electro Web. You go with like an Eerie Impulse. And you go with like a Volt Switch. That's just what I like personally, right? You could still cut that Eerie Impulse for like a Thunderbolt if you wanted it. And then the EV spread that I go with, right now, you're getting diminishing returns. You're getting diminishing returns just barely on your defense and special defense slot. Just because Lucky has such much higher base HP than it has defenses. So you would actually gain more by putting more points specifically in defense, make it so you don't die to like, you know, Miracle Seed, Rillaboom, Grassy Glides, Choice Bender, Tree Suck, a bunch of stuff like that. What I would do with this set is, I think I've recommended this set to people before. It's a way simpler set. You basically just go 4 here. You go 156. You can go 252 modest, which is stronger than you were before. With a magnet, you're way stronger. And then you get the luxury of going 60-36. Now, this lets you still function at a same technical lucky speed tier. You're gonna get outsped by some weird scarf mons, like, or mons at +1. So if like they have like a a Gengar that gets a +1 from an Airstream or something, they're gonna outspeed you. But you're gonna be fine because they shouldn't even know that they can, so they shouldn't actually try. But anyways. This functions basically at regular lucky speed tiers, but you're way, way, way bulkier, and you can switch in on damage. You can be a bully. You can actually soak a lot of physical attacks with this. Also, the fact that we have 60 points in Spit F lets us trade versus other luckies very, very well. We can actually soak damage from them, Electro Web them, do way more to them because we're magnet boosted with nature, and then one-shot them with a Volt Switch after soaking their Thunderbolt. So in a late game situation, this lucky is going to be a lot more value. Anytime you can throw about 60 points into a stat, a defensive stat, you're throwing your opponent's calcs out by about 5%. So their Thunderbolts are turned into 3 shots, and we're in a really good spot. Now you may be thinking, this was made to stop like Tailwind teams. Now I don't have an answer for like Tailwind, Kyogre, and Rain. Well, the answer we want to look at is using our own Tailwind mon. We do not need a Rillaboom on this team. We have 2 Fake Out mons already. Rillaboom's cool, but we can cut it for a Pokemon that still provides grass coverage while providing Tailwind. It's Whimsicott. Right? The thing that makes Calyrex and Zacian good is you have to respect Calyrex Zacian, but you have to respect Calyrex Zacian, Alecki, Calyrex Zacian with Fake Out support, and also the big thing that you're missing here is Calyrex Zacian with the potential of Tailwind from Whimsicott or some other Tailwind setter. So we have Protect, Tailwind, and then you can make a bunch of these moves whatever you want. You can go for double offensive moves with like Moonblast Grass or Moonblast Energy Ball. You can go with, I would say the Energy Ball is going to be better just because it's better right now versus Gastrodons. They're everywhere in the meta. It still has the same grass coverage for things like Kyogre if you want it. And then you can make this into Encore. I think Encore is the high skill play. I think Encore is the correct way to do it. You can also use this to Encore Trick Room users that like Trick Room, so you can Trick Room their Trick Room right back. You can also put Taunt there. You could put like Flingo Helping Hand. Like Fling with like a King's Rock. There's so many different things you can do. I think that Encore is the correct play. It takes a little bit more to like build around and learn how to use. But Weaving and Protects Encores, you can Encore Fake Out users. It's really, really cool. And then as for the item, what you could do is you could put your Sash back here, right? And then you could go back with your Spell Tag, right? And then you go back with like Wisp and Sub, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But at that point, like, is this Cali even worth running? Like, are you even getting anything out of it? I think that at that point, you're probably best cutting the Cali for something else, like a Palkia, a Kyogre, or something. But you know what? Let's just stick with the Cali that you have now and make sure that our Wims has the Sash because it's more important than the Wims in my opinion. And then just make your EVs super normal. This is a good example why the button sucks. Don't click the button all the time. Make your EVs just like this. Still got to be full speed. And those last 4 in HP. You're good to go. As for the Incin, I think that this Incin set's okay, but you do not need Shuka on it. I think Citrus is going to be more valuable, especially because we're adding like different ways to mitigate damage and things like that. And then Taunt's cool. It's okay. If you're really a Taunt user, you can put Taunt there instead of Encore. Realistically, anything that you would be taunting, you can kind of just let them use it. Like if it's a stat boosting move, like a Swords Dance or a Belly Drum, you can just Encore that, and it's basically the same as taunting it because then they're ruined forever, right? Same thing for Trick Room. Like the Trick Room, you can go for a Prankster Encore next turn and make them Trick Room their own Trick Room. You're in a pretty good spot. So you don't really need Taunt. I think that you're on this sort of set with an Incin set that's this aggressive, it's a crime not to have 2 attacks. And so you want the Lariat here. And I like Lariat over Throat Chop because we don't have the speed to use Throat Chop to use other Incins. But also Lariat's a stronger move and it goes through stat boosts. So it's really, really good against those like Solgaleos and Dialgas that have stacked a ton of Steel Spike boosts. So this is how I would fix this team. And I think it's just a bulkier Zacian, a more well-rounded Blastoise that can be used in a wide variety of situations, a more bulkier standard Lecky, a Whimsicott that unlocks the potential of every one of these Pokemon, because now they have to respect every single Pokemon working in Tailwind. The Lecky, the Blastoise, the Shadow Rider, even the Incin going for Tailwind boosted parting shots. So much potential out of this stuff, with us also having like game-winning plays from like Encore, from like Fake Out Blastoise, from like the Shadow Rider, like Wisp subsets. So now we have a lot more viable options in a best of 3 format. So what we're going to do is the same thing we do every single time. We're going to give them their paste. And we're going to let them know. Here you go. Be on the look out for the video where I go over the changes. I almost made you a different Shadow Rider set. So, what do I say? So, feel free to change it if you feel that Shadow Rider isn't forming. Look at me, I can't type. Cool. I like that we post this part because like it just shows that like, you know, you can see that like there's that one-on-one connection, right? I actually take the time to write out all these comments, and I'm always open for like DMs on Patreon if people like have questions about the changes that I make. So if I make changes to your team, you don't like them, or you want me to go a little bit more in depth, why? Think about letting me know. Think about submitting your teams. There's still time to submit your team. I'll be doing this all throughout this month because I'm going to be going away to Iceland, so there's going to be a ton of teams when I get back. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys want to use this rental code, I'm sure they're going to leave it up, and it still definitely does work. If you're looking for just a test version of Zacian Shadow Rider Blastoise, this is still a really, really good team to play. But remember, they wanted it optimized for a best-of-3 setting, so I did my very best. The last thing I'm going to say to them is if they're watching, be sure to PP max your moves, especially like your Behemoth Blades and your Astral Projects. Very important. Other than that, peace out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.